welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, then a big huge welcome to you. Well, I have got a little bit of a last minute collab again, and I wasn't really going to plan to organise it because I thought to myself, even though I have one more video left to go, I just thought, oh, okay, that's fine. But then suddenly someone, a very special person, decided to come and suggest that we should do a collab together, and that special person is Mr. Dan Jones from TheAspieWorld. And we wanted to do this collab for such a long time, and that collab was about autism and girls. And yeah, it was definitely really good fun, but there was a little bit of a hiccup towards the end, which I will explain later in the video. But until then, I won't say any more, and I'll hand over to me and Dan for our collab. We have a last minute video collab, surprise, surprise, but it's a very special one this weekend because I have the amazing Mr. Daniel Jones from TheAspieWorld joining with us today. And we were planning to do this collab for a while, but as I was finishing, because I thought, after the panel was finished, but then Daniel came up and just thought, yeah, let's do a collab, why not? So today we are going to talk about something that Dan's really, really passionate about. But yeah, Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Says. We've been trying to do this collab for a while. We've done one before on my channel. That was about a year or two ago. So I'm really happy to do another one. Yeah, so my name is Dan. And if anybody doesn't know what I do, I upload videos on autism on my YouTube channel, TheAspieWorld. I have autism, ADHD, OCD, and dyslexia. And so, yeah, I kind of create content similar to what Saz does, but she's more diverse with all her cool acting stuff. But mine are literally just autism and mental health. So if you, if you don't know who I am, that's what I do.
You've been talking about very big topics, but the one topic we're going to be talking about is something that you've been uploading recently, and it's about autism and girls. And it was funny though, because when I first talked to everyone about our video topic for our collab, the reaction I got was, Dad's a boy, but he's talking about autism and girls. And this was really quite surprising. And I just thought, wow, it's just a bit of a surprise. But if you find a video that you're very passionate about, then it's always good just to say what you need to say. So yeah, I think with all the autism and girls videos, how many of them have you uploaded so far?
I think I've done about, including the ones where I'm interviewing my friends who are on the spectrum, like yourself, who are female. I have uploaded, I think, I don't know, probably about 8 or 9, which is quite a lot, really, considering I'm a guy.
Well, that's very impressive and true dedication, really, to do like 8 or 9. But I thought it was more than that. But it's definitely. Really,
do you know what? Maybe that is, Says. I uploaded so many. I uploaded 4 autism and girls videos last month at least. So maybe there is more than that. I think maybe there's, I don't know, it could even be like 15 videos. I have no idea anymore. I just lose count.
I try to count up really every time I watch your videos, and then it's like, well, hang on, what's he going to be talking about? Focusing on autism and girls again? There's just so many to count, and it's wonderful to see how much you're really dedicated into it. And we just thought that since you're so dedicated into this, and of course you're a guy talking about girls, we just thought we would just have like a little sit down and chat talking about why you are passionate about like girls on the spectrum. And yeah, you've talked about various topics. So the topics, for example, is about making friendships, social communication, and basically the list goes on. And I know I could think some things off the top of my head, but I know these are the topics you really focused on. So which was your favorite topic to talk about, and why was that the case?
I think, I think the diagnostic part of it. So you know how diagnosing females on the spectrum works differently to males on the spectrum, but the thing about it kind of struck me as like I wanted to talk about it quite a lot, because I think it's one of the main things I talk about, is that people are always looking at autism as a male dominant kind of condition, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And one thing I found quite interesting is that like there's the ratio is 3 to 1. I don't know if you're familiar with the ratio, right? So one female for every 3 males diagnosed, which is like, what on earth? Like that can't be right. And if you think about society and the population and on Earth, there's slightly more females on Earth than there are males. So the probability factor typically should be that there should be more females diagnosed with autism, right? But it isn't. And this 3 to 1 ratio really got me. So I wanted to dive into it and do videos on it because I wanted to know why. And that's what my videos are about. And the videos and the why factor is this, that the diagnostic criteria that was set up initially was from Hans Asperger's initial findings, and that was for young boys on the spectrum. But he didn't look at girls because he just said, well, girls don't have it. He didn't even think about it.
No, that's basically not true, really. And I agree with you with that, because everyone keeps saying, oh, autism is a boys thing. How many times we got to say this? It's not the case. And this is something that we both really stress about. And then with the ratio, that really got me thinking as well, because I was diagnosed when I was about 2 or 3. And like all the content creators where they were diagnosed early, including yourself, Dan, because you were diagnosed about 35, were you?
26. It was late. It was 26 years old.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was like a little bit later. I must have
no
someone else.
It's confusing, isn't it? Because there's a lot of us now. It's hard to know
yeah, definitely.
Do you know? I actually says I don't mean to interrupt, but I actually interviewed a woman who's an author, and she'd written loads of books. But she wrote a book about her mother, because her mother was 70 years old. And she was diagnosed with autism in her 70s, and she was a woman, 70 years old, incredible. And she had the diagnosis for 2 years, and then she passed away. And that's just a mad, like 70 years, incredible.
That is amazing. I mean, that just shows you how much it's really good to have like autistic girls at any age, really. But getting the diagnosis quite late is a very stress factor for any autistic person, depending on genders, age. It just is like that, yeah. And I know I was lucky in this case, really, to get diagnosed early, to get like all the support I needed in school and all of that stuff. But it's extra hard for everybody else, really, and probably girls can relate to that, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, because it's not just a case of being diagnosed late. I think it's the case of striving to get that diagnosis later on. So it's not just like, with males. A lot of males, they pick it up, don't they? And they say, "Oh, I think this man could be on the spectrum," and then they go through the diagnostic process, and then they go, "Yeah, it's ASD or whatever." But in terms of girls or females, they're getting to that age, and they're having to go, "Look, I think I may be on the spectrum. There's something I need help. And they're striving for the help rather than somebody pointing it out. They're having to kind of say, "Look, it's different." So I think, that's one of my passion in what I'm doing is driven by the fact that I want to help spread that awareness so that women and girls aren't just forgotten about. Like they're not just like, oh yeah, it's autism isn't in girls. I want everyone to be realizing like, okay, look, especially therapists and people who diagnose them. One of the videos I released, I think it was one I did last. It's called 5 Signs of Autism. No. Wait, I haven't uploaded it yet. I've got a video coming out shortly, and in that, it's 5 reasons why females are not diagnosed with autism when they do have the condition, right? And one of them is the attitude that the medical profession have. So some people in the medical industry will just dismiss it. They'll be like, "Oh no, you're not on the spectrum. Get out of my office," kind of thing. It's like, what the heck? And I just feel so sorry for all these girls who are just like sitting there struggling, and it could lead to some really bad mental health conditions, suicidal, maybe sometimes depression, things like that. You don't want, you want to be able to get people the help they need, that they deserve, adequately and as quickly as possible. So that's kind of like, yeah, I think it is stressful for them in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's it. I definitely agree with this one, because I did another collab earlier in the week with my friend Claire, who is a nurse at the National Health Service, and she did say the same thing similar to that, not just on the girls, but for every single patient within the National Health Service. And it's a big struggle as well. And then there was another incident that one of a family vlogger who's got a son with autism and epilepsy, He had a massive seizure about nearly 2 weeks ago, and the nurse and doctors didn't really understand him. But then what happened was, when the parents tried to say, oh, we need some help, I don't know what's happened, and the nurses doctors goes, he's autistic, you just have to wait and wear it out. And I thought, come on, really?
Jeez.
That's so bad. It's really bad.
It's bad. Do you know what's funny as well? Talking about the medical industry, and I'm not trying to slate our medical industry, right? I think that we are blessed to be in a country that has medical care for free at the point of use. We pay national insurance, whatever, but anytime, any day, you can walk into any hospital and say, I need help, and they'd help you, right? So I am blessed for that, and I'm not bad mouthing the NHS. I think it's fantastic. But one of the main statistics that really blew me away when I first started doing autism advocacy is that your general practitioner, or your GP doctor, so for any Americans, that's what do they call it, a physician. 40% of all, or 46% of all GP doctors don't have any knowledge on autism. That's almost half of the GPs. So you've got a 50-50 gamble, really, going to any to get help from your doctor relating to your condition, because it's a gamble to know if they're going to know what you're talking about, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the same thing, but then it's also important for staff to get like a proper training, because I know my mom used to work in a national health service as well. This was like 20 odd years ago now, and she said there was no training for autism. And it's still so surprising, even though it's 20 years later, it's still the same like that, and it shouldn't be. But I guess in the one way, there's more needs to be done.
Yeah, definitely. Because just thinking about that, right? If nothing's changed in 20 years, oh my goodness. And then also, you got to think 40% of the GPs don't know about autism. So unless they're like the top, they're like some of the top kind of people in there, next to consultants and surgeons. So nurses and people like that, they're going to have even less of them know about autism, right? You're going to look at like 60% of them probably don't know anything about autism. But this is what really startled me, is that women who are already at a disadvantage for diagnostic criteria and help, then going to someone with a 40 to 60% no idea anything about the condition they may have. I mean, you're just in a lose-lose situation, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. It's just like you have to like find the right way, and this is why training is really important. And what Claire did is that before she went into medical field, because she had to study autism for university at the time, she had to do like various research, and she actually tried to find a way for like different routines. So if she knows someone with autism, she's like, okay, we'll wait. And then there was one patient said, okay, you don't like waiting times, why don't we see if you can wait in the car park before your actual appointment, because it's in a quiet atmosphere. And it does work. I don't know if autistic girls can actually feel like a bit more sensitive compared to boys, but yeah, it's definitely important to think that way. Another big thing about autism and girls, and this is the thing everyone's talking about, music, because the performing arts industry with autism and girls, it's becoming like a bigger thing now, but it always has its own ups and downs, really.
Yeah. So in terms of like the performing arts industry and girls on the spectrum, what do you mean? Can you define that a little bit?
Yeah, so with autism and girls in the performing arts industry, there's a few films that have come out. So films like Please Stand By and Snowcake, and like all those different films, they portray characters with autism as females, and that was something I think that happened when Snowcake came out, and since then there have been more films, but slowly in time focusing on female characters and television as well. But when it came to Sia's film music, I was just so shocked with everything that just happened, really. And I think you did a video about it as well as Andy, I believe.
I did 5 videos on it because I just couldn't believe, I just kept like, I was sitting down and I was so kind of like, oh my goodness, that's another thing, and I had to make another video. But just when you were saying that, I actually reviewed some Disney shorts, and one of them was Loop. Have you seen that?
Yes, I just saw that before we actually did the collab. I managed to just sit down and watch it on Disney Plus.
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was really good because it was really interesting to see how it was portrayed, because I know I have a few friends who are non-verbal. Some of them are autistic, but one of my friends isn't autistic but has cerebral palsy. But it's
Yeah.
really great just to actually see a portrayal of a girl to actually
Yeah.
who's non-verbal, because everyone thinks boys are non-verbal,
Boys.
but it's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. 100%. And more females on the spectrum are going to be more selective mute and nonverbal than the males, right? So you got more nonverbal females on the spectrum, which is nuts to think about. But do you know what I really liked about Loop was that not only was it an autistic girl, but it was an autistic girl of color or ethnic background. Like she had a a different ethnic background to the average kind of like pasty white guy, kind of atypical. You know what I mean? And I think that
Yeah.
was good. I really did like that.
I couldn't agree more, actually. And it was just like really, really good how it was really done. And I what really got me was that how they portrayed the meltdowns, especially when
Hmm.
she actually threw the phone in the river.
Loses
Oh,
the phone. Yeah.
spoiler alert if for anyone who hasn't seen
Oh.
it yet.
Whoops.
But when she threw the phone into the water while she had the tantrum meltdown, I just thought, wow, you really went for that, Disney. You really went through that.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
just so surprising.
It's when somebody asked me, they said, "Okay, so Sia did that movie wrong in your eyes." I said, "Yeah." So they said, "How could she have done it better?" I said, "The only way I see this happening is that you have an autistic actress playing that part, or you make it a cartoon that you consult with an autistic actress for that part, right? Because Loop, they did it really well. Disney did it really well with Loop. They didn't have to get anybody mocking anyone. It was not ableist. It was very like it's just very soft and gentle. There's another movie that they did called Float. Have you seen that one?
No, I don't think I have.
It's another short on the Disney Plus because we've all got Disney Plus. But watch that one. Float is similar thing. It's about hidden disabilities or having a kid who has a disability, and this man is trying to kind of like protect people from seeing his kid because he didn't want them to like judge and look at him. And then because his kid floats in it, that's the thing. It's like flying and stuff. I was like, oh, this kid flies, but it's metaphorically could be a disability like autism or Tourette's or anything, right? And so in it kind of takes you through his journey, and it's a beautiful film. It's only like a 9-minute thing, but watch it. It's fantastic.
I think I definitely agree with the float, but I'll definitely watch that. And then I did a poll on Twitter recently before World Autism Awareness Week, and I asked everyone, what's the best portrayal of an autistic female or autism in general? And a lot of people said, I was really surprised to hear about this, but everyone said Please Stand By was the best portrayal of autism. I don't
Wow.
know why, but that really shocked me.
That's interesting. I haven't seen it, so I'm interested to see it. Is it on? Where did you see it?
I haven't seen the film either, but it used to be on
Oh,
Netflix, but I don't think it is anymore.
oh.
But it's a shame, really, because if it was on
Yeah,
for
it is a
longer,
shame.
I would have watched it. But it was just like one of those things, really, that it just kind of misses you. But I only thought about starting to think about watching it properly because I wasn't really into Star Trek until my boyfriend got me into Star Trek recently.
Star Trek's awesome.
Oh yeah, I couldn't really agree more with like the Star Trek. Oh, and I learned how to do this: live long and prosper.
Vulcans. Yeah,
But
I love it.
I only liked Star Trek because I liked Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Voyager.
Oh yeah, Voyager. Yeah.
Yeah, I always think it's the best one, really, because it's got a female
Really?
captain, and
Yeah.
I like women who lead, really.
It's 7 of 9 in Voyager.
She is, yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a lot, and there's a female. Is it Voyager's got the female Vulcan in it as well?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it is more female driven, that one. I think it's like that 90s like power girl, like I think it's cool. But yeah, Star Trek's great. The new movies are amazing. They really are good. And do you know what I like about Star Trek Discovery, which is the latest one on Netflix, the latest season? There's like a gay couple, there's two men who are like homosexual couple in it, and I think it's great, because and then there's homosexual kissing and stuff, and I think like of course, because love is love and we shouldn't judge, and and I think I was like Star Trek broke the. I don't know if you know this about Star Trek, but back in the 60s and 70s, when Star Trek was like in its prime, when it first started, the first interracial kiss on television was between Spock and Uhura, and Uhura, Lieutenant Uhura, was the Swahilian kind of like African American woman, and then Spock obviously was the Vulcan, but he was like this pasty kind of white guy. But that was the first time on television history that they had interracial kissing, and Star Trek broke the barriers with that, right? And I think that they did the same with this like homosexual couple. I loved it. I was like, yes, man, like just go for it, Star Trek, changing it. I love it.
Oh, that's brilliant though, because it does show you it's really good diversity as well.
It really
And
is.
I think a lot of people will do look up to that really. And like for me as an autistic woman, it's nice to actually have like things to change with the kissing scene, for example. It
Yeah.
does make you think twice about things that happen in real life. And
Mm.
it's not so much about like what background that you come from, or what color skin you are, or if you're diagnosed with a condition or not. You're still the same, and you're always going to be the
Yeah,
same.
you're
No matter
you.
what. With all the girls, each experience is different to one and the other. What have you always tend to find that if there was one person who told you that, oh, girls are not really into makeup, or autistic girls are like, they don't dress pretty or anything, they always wear baggy clothes, and just that, what do you think? What would you say in that in response?
I mean, I think it's complete nonsense, isn't it? Because like I know, I mean, for a start, like you're wearing girls' clothes, you've done your hair lovely, and and you're a girl on the spectrum. So I don't think there's, that you can't stereotype people based on maybe one character. And maybe you might find an autistic person or autistic female who is atypical, or she's like asexual, and maybe she doesn't want to wear makeup or wear girly type of clothing, right? And then that's cool, but you can't like label everybody like that. It's kind of like saying that all autistic guys are like nerdy Pokemon fans, right? You can't really say that, because by generalizing people, you then start to kind of segregate yourself from them, and then that's where we get problems. And I think that the autistic females I know, not one of them is the same. Like they're all vastly different. But I'll tell you something that is kind of a running theme with all the autistic females I know.
Mhm.
Confidence. They're very confident people, and it's confidence that they don't even know they have. Like you're a very confident person, right? Says, but I bet if I asked you if you're confident, you'd say no, I'm quite a shy, meek person. But you're very confident, and I love that. And same with all the other autistic females, they come across as if they seem themselves as being kind of like meek, but they're actually very confident women, and I love that. I think that's great. So never lose that.
Oh, thank you, Dan. But I know that I've made so many autistic friends as well. My oh, who can I say, for example? Eva, who I always do like collabs with occasionally.
Oh yeah.
She's in a lesbian relationship, but she
Mhm.
always dresses differently, and she recently cut her hair, but she always still looks great and looks confident, and she's one of the most confident females I know, really, because she
Mm.
knows what to do, and she knows what she wants and what has to say, really, because she's very, very strong opinions, really, of how girls should be portrayed. And it's
Wow.
not just in if you're in a like a straight relationship or in a gay relationship. She's very passionate about that, and I think
Mm.
we definitely need more women like that, really. I
Oh,
definitely.
100%. I think we need more women in positions of public heroes and stuff like that. I think we need more women in banking. I think we need more women politicians. I think we need role models for young girls coming up, because it's been too much of a male dominated world, right? And that like we've seen what happens when you have male dominated worlds. You have abuses of power, which we saw with that horrible thing that happened to that woman in London, right, recently.
Yeah.
Spark this whole kind of like women, the vulnerability of women versus the abuse that men can put on women, which is horrible. And um, I think that this whole psyche, the whole mind frame of like male dominance over women, which causes a lot of the abuse, it comes from the fact that we have a male dominated world. Our society is male dominated, and it has to change. It has to be, considering females outnumber males. It's like, come on, like, how can this even be,
No, that's it. And then it was the thing with the two police officers as well in the Met
Hmm.
Police from recently. And then also a lot of the girls, I know they were talking about like their own stories about how the life, like the world being in a male dominant world, has made them feel vulnerable. And I think in a few cases, being autistic and being a woman is extra hard. If everyone thinks
Oh,
being a woman's hard, times that by autism and it's much worse. But believe me, it's kind
yeah.
of something that everyone I know had to go through. I mean, I had it really tough when I had to go through when I was growing up and when I was around people, especially around boys, because I was like a shy person, and being around things, because some things did happen to me which I won't explain online, but some of
Sure.
those bits read me, they really made me feel very vulnerable. And I didn't trust a single boy for
Mm.
many years until I started dating. And then I started
Yeah.
YouTube as well. And my confidence grew back then. But it's just, I always thought men, all men outside my family are a bit wary or a bit bad. But I learned that this is not the case now. And it just
Mm.
makes you believe really that if you feel less confident being around someone or a gender that you feel very uncomfortable with, then would the confidence be lost altogether? It just makes you think twice about it.
It is, and that's a real shame as well, because like nobody should be made to feel vulnerable, right? We should be made to feel secure by the people around us, and it's that single kind of like incident that happens like quite rarely that will change someone's perception on everything like that and lose all their confidence, which is such a shame. It's horrible. And yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area, like how we change society's view and how men kind of like need to be educated. But it comes down to that, educating boys. And it comes back down to that, like I was saying, educating people that women can be on the spectrum. Again, that's a vulnerability factor by saying like, brushing women off by saying, "Oh, get out of my office. You're not on the autism spectrum." It's like, what? Nah? Like, you know what I mean? So women are always in this vulnerable category, and yeah, it's hard. It's difficult, and it's difficult being a male seeing that, right? Because it's kind of like this whole, you have like white privilege kind of, we don't experience racism like, the people of color experience racism, right? And they say that it's because it's white privilege, but like I feel like that again with male privilege, like, when I see things happen to women, I'm kind of like, wow, I'll never experience that because I'm a male, and I can never understand that. And I really want to help, so it's a fascinating subject. We can go on for hours talking about
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if you are in a whole group of girls. Like if you put like about 5 or 6 girls in a room with just only one guy, then you can learn a lot about from women. But this is just like me saying it as an example. But if you think about like if you're around boys and if there are girls who aren't too sure. I know I'm not making any sense, but this is just like me getting like into the
that.
mind. It's kind of like, why don't you actually think about or just hang around with the opposite sex? Because at the same time, I felt less comfortable. I felt like a little bit of like some like very strong friendships between boys, and
Hmm.
one of the boys I had was a family friend of mine, and I trusted him because he was a really good friend. And I think,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because of that, I would probably, I don't know if you agree with this, Dan, but I always think that if you want to know about the opposite sex, whether it's before you start dating or you just want to hang around with them, you would encourage everyone to make friendships with boys and girls. And then I
Yeah.
always tend to find if you make friendships with the opposite sex, then you'll have more confidence and understanding of a woman, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
100%. No, it makes total sense. And I do agree with you. I think that, like, the more that you can expose yourself to different genders and sexes, the more that you'll be able to learn, right? It's like anything else. Like, exposure equals kind of like gain because you understand them a bit more and allowing yourself to be open to understand. Because a lot of men, you got to think that a lot of men are kind of quite alpha dominant. So they're like, oh, I already know everything about women. It's like, you don't know anything about women, you know what I mean? And so a man's in the room, but like, they wouldn't want to know about a woman. But it would be nice if you'd be like, all right, because how many guys, who will know anything about periods and stuff, guys would be like, oh no, yeah, I can't, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to talk about his women stuff, but no, men should learn about it, like, why wouldn't they? I mean, it's ridiculous. I could go on another tangent about all those kind of things, but it's like I think being open to that and having friends in those genders and sexes, I think is definitely the way forward, and that's the only way you're going to learn. And I'd say that before dating, definitely, make friends and try and because if you have a really good friend who's the opposite sex, then you'll be able to learn all those things that you'll definitely eventually need to know about the sex that you then go with, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing.
And then also, if you have sisters as well, that's a really important thing, because my boyfriend, he's got two sisters, and
Ah.
he doesn't really bother with like all of the private things that they do, really, because they're not afraid to like
Well, they're
talk.
sisters. Yeah, I have a sister and a brother who's a homosexual man. So I have this really well-rounded view of like, I've had the best of everything really. So I know like, my sister, she's got a boyfriend, a partner now, and a boyfriend and kids. But then my brother, he's also got a boyfriend and partner, and they live together. So it's kind of like it's cool. So I get to see this kind of like, I know a lot about like the gay community, and I know how, and I've been to a lot of their events, and I think they're great people. So I think you're right, having like siblings, exposing yourself to siblings in an open and honest way is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And then this brings me to my next point. Are
Sure.
girls overlooked compared to boys when it comes to the autism community?
Oh, 100%. Like, of course they are. Like, it's the forgotten group, isn't it? If you say to somebody, like, this is really interesting, and anyone listening to this now, they'll be like, if I say, think of somebody who's autistic, they'll think of a little boy sitting there playing with a car on his own. Everybody will. You know what I mean? And it's such a shame because I think nobody really instantly goes to think about girls. They'll first of all think about boys. And it's like, that's the most frustrating part for me.
And that's just like one of those things with girls being really overlooked. I mean, this is kind of like a thing, really. I mean, it's not fair, really, because if the girls are being overlooked, even in the 21st century, you just think, come on. I mean, come on, that's not right,
Yeah. Yeah, how are we in like 2021 and girls are still overlooked? It's like it's bizarre, isn't it?
It's really, really crazy. But I know that even though if girls being overlooked, it's always important just to like make understandings of it. And that's why we said, for example, friendships are really important. And then
Yeah.
also going to autism friendly groups is important. I've been to plenty of them. And then recently I
Mm.
joined one that's on Zoom, and
Oh wow.
there's plenty of girls on there, and it's really
Yeah, yeah.
amazing just to see how much people are inclusive and friendly towards girls. And it's amazing, and it's just makes me feel like you are feeling included. So hopefully the overlookedness will go away sometime soon.
Yeah, I think so. I think the more advocacy people like yourself and like, our community do, and more videos we make on it and putting that content out, I think the the more people will kind of be around it and kind of start to get in. Because you think about it, when it first happened, we had autism awareness, right? But now it's autism understanding. So you can see that change does happen through persistence of education. So I think that's a great thing. And I think, keep doing what we're doing, fighting the fight, and it will change. Of course it will. It has to.
Yeah, definitely. And then also another thing is that this is going to sound like a little bit of a controversial thing, but also
Sure.
with women when it comes to like the dominance of the sex, and
Mhm.
maybe it's something to do like with like a little bit of culture background, something like politics and religion. And I know
Right.
that I've been to a Roman Catholic secondary school, and it was all girls, so it was just like a little bit harder. But maybe
Yeah.
people shouldn't be really so strict with autism, and especially around girls, because it's always important to have things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I know what you mean because when you start like segregating people out of different things, like if you went to an all-girls school, but a lot of the time, you think about this, kids who are diagnosed younger will go to an autism school, right? But then they won't have that ability to interact with the mainstream kids because they've never been exposed to that, right? And I did a whole video on this. Are autism schools a good thing or a bad thing? And they are both a good thing and a bad thing. And the bad thing is that, I went to a mainstream school, and I had a horrendous time, emotionally, but it, I did learn loads of skills. Like my ability to communicate verbally, and my lexicon and my vocabulary extended twice as much because I was exposed to people who were neurotypical, right? And I made friends with everybody who's neurotypical. I was the only kind of person on the spectrum in my year. So it was good to be exposed to that in some respects. Obviously, there's downside from me going to a mainstream school and not an awesome school. So I think it's an interesting topic. It really is. It's fascinating, and there is no one like specific answer to that.
No, I definitely agree, because the secondary school I went to as well, it was a mainstream, but because it was religious on top, it was a little bit tough. With a mainstream school, it's a bit more difficult because you feel like you don't really understand all. But luckily, my school had a learning support department because it had a specialist area, and it did have a good understanding of that. But I always think that it is good, but it's not enough. And this was about 10-15 years ago now, and I just think more needs to be done. And I don't know if anything's changed since then, but I always tend to think that mainstream schools, that they should always be open and positive, really. And I know that I was really good with the teachers and all around, because they were very positive. But I know that there was one learning support teacher who said to my mum that I would never get a degree, I would never live independently, I would never do things. And then my mum went, never say never. And this is something religiously I keep to myself, really, because it feels like you can't really put someone down just because they're autistic, especially with girls, because girls are really very bright. I mean, they are. I'm not saying I'm not going to be discriminate, because boys are bright too, and I know that with girls it's nice just to have things like that. But yeah. Well, this is where the collab ended, because it turns out Dan was frozen on the other end, and it was so annoying though, because I literally had one more question for him, because I know that we were talking so much and we were really enjoying ourselves. I literally had one question left, and it happened. And this was something that we didn't plan to happen, but that's technology, and technology is a little bit naughty because it has a mind of its own. But don't worry, if you guys think that we are not going to do any more collabs, we will try and fix something at a later date. I have to say though, that was been an absolute pleasure. So Dan, thank you so much for collaborating with me today. Well, collaborated / interview. It was really, really good to have you on for World Autism Awareness Week, and I'm really sorry it didn't really work out at the end because there was a little bit of hiccups. We will try and fix something at some point. We definitely will. But hopefully, fingers crossed, technology will be kinder to us this time. And with that, I'm going to be drawing this video to a close. A big massive thank you to not just Dan, but to everybody who has collabed during World Autism Awareness Week. I mean, it was a really good week, I'm not gonna lie, but it has been a bit challenging, and I'm not gonna lie about that either. But yes, a massive thank you to everybody who I interviewed this week. It's been a huge pleasure, and I will do a conclusion video at some point just to talk about how everything went and why I wanted to talk about the topics I mentioned in each video, and then yeah, just basically just coming up with something. And with that, I will be drawing this video to a close, and until then guys, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and as always remember to keep on dreaming and never stop believing. Stay safe, stay well, keep positive, and I will see you very soon. Bye!